These are the slopes of Southern California. Layer behind layer under the ancient sun, they stretch along the shores of the Pacific Ocean. There's a great tranquility here, although Los Angeles is scarcely 150 miles away. There's a feeling of timelessness. The Indians rise before the memory as they lived here for thousands of years, or the Spanish who came after them. Out there to the north, one can almost see the tip of Point Conception. And opposite, that island shrouded in mist, is San Miguel, said to be the resting place of Cabrillo, Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo, who set foot on the continent in 1542 and discovered California. With the Yanks, this was an important stagecoach inn, this adobe building with its triple roof, now for the birds to nest in. 100 years have passed since, but the land around here is still much the same. Today, there are vast ranches here raising fine cattle and horses. The pasturing land in these parts must be improved, as ranchers are confronted with a problem. There's a need for special grasses, so-called exotic grasses, with their several advantages over the native kind. The native grasses that grow all over are green only 4 months out of the year, whereas the exotic grasses, such as Smilo, Velt, and Harding, stay green for 7 months and are perennials besides. They are excellent for the cattle, but they must have room and a chance to grow, and they have to be planted, as they're not wild growing and native. Wild growing and native, alas, is the brush. Brush, which creates the problem. From the distance, it is part of the general scenery of California, with its golden expanse of native grasses and dark green vegetation. But that dark green mass enveloping the hills is the brush, an unmanageable, tough, and useless tangle, a growth which is no good to anyone, particularly when it stands some 15 feet high, which happens when it has been left to grow unchecked for 10, 15, 20 years or more. Man cannot get through it. Cattle won't even attempt to get through, and it's a waste to wildlife, as the deer, for instance, will best feed on the shoots of new brush. It's no good to any rancher, for no grass can or will grow under it. And such vicious growth with all the dead old wood is a tremendous fire hazard, particularly as the population and housing move ever closer to the brush line. As to water, brush is an enemy, absorbing vast quantities of precious water so that much-needed springs and stock ponds dry up. There's a solution to the problem, though, and the most effective one is fire, controlled fire, carefully planned and timed burning. The first step in a controlled burn is the cutting of fire breaks, and bulldozers go to work to clear away the brush. The locations have been determined beforehand. These fire breaks will help keep the fire from jumping, and they will also serve as avenues of access and as roads for the equipment that will participate in the operation. Gathering for a meeting on controlled burn are members of the Santa Barbara Range Improvement Association. Founded in 1956 after a particularly disastrous fire, this became a non-profit cooperative group of dedicated men who, on a voluntary basis, helped their fellow members to clear the brushland. Some of these burns are planned as far as 2 years ahead, such as the 7,000 acres to be cleared next. The map shows the geography of the ranch, the fire breaks, and the wind currents as they are expected to develop. Also the position of units A and B, into which 100 firefighters will be grouped. Members of the association include ranch owners, foremen, and ranch managers, and professional men with expert knowledge in firefighting, such as the one who heads the discussion and who will be known as one of the 2 fire bosses in the operation. It is not yet sunrise. The men who will do the burn assemble between the old adobe and the barn. They check their equipment and make their preparations. These men form a tightly knit team. Each one knows what he will have to do and what his appointed task is going to be. They have practiced controlled burning for 9 years, and of a total of 105,000 acres, less than 1% have gone beyond the planned limits, doing no damage whatsoever to any home or building or to any forest land. And that is a pretty good record. These men apply a good deal of wisdom in their work. They utilize the latest in modern equipment. At the same time, they rely on old and tried methods and on man's intuition and instincts, which help immensely in such an operation. The burn is directed by 2 fire bosses who are in complete charge. And as coordination is an important factor, everyone takes his orders from these 2 men. Assisting in the execution of the burn are the State Forestry Division, which takes an active interest in the operation, and the Santa Barbara County Fire Department, which plays an important role by lending men and equipment in the event their help should be needed. Higher up in the hills, the night fog hasn't lifted yet. It's quiet and cool all around, and everything is damp. It's too early to light any fires. Nothing will burn. This method of testing humidity in the air was used before instruments were invented, and even now it can't do any harm to double-check the modern sling psychrometer. While waiting for the moisture to dry up, a consultation of these reduced maps confirms the positions of units A and B. The sun is higher now, and the burn gets underway. Most of the burn is done with a flamethrower using diesel fuel pumped by a Jeep-mounted compressor. Once the flare of this phosphor stick is lighted, not wind nor water will put it out, and it is handy in lighting areas not readily accessible to the flamethrower. Before the burn spreads, horses must be corralled if they're not used to fire. Otherwise, they'll become excited and run into the flames. Cows with a different temperament calmly move away from the fire area. The fire department is standing by, ever ready. Here, the cows have reached the safety of a burned-out area, and they go on grazing. The lighting continues along the perimeter, and according to burnout technique, the fire is worked in toward the center of the entire area. All the while, the bulldozers are on duty, smoothing and widening fire breaks as the need arises. The accuracy with which this fire has been contained is typical of this controlled burn, and has helped to prevent vast and costly fires which occur so frequently everywhere. The fire boss of Unit B is making the rounds and is getting some of his men ready to start the burn. This is where Unit B is headquartered, miles away from the other team. While waiting for word from their boss, they shift around their equipment and repair the Jeep for the flamethrower operation. These men are experts in all phases of ranch operation. At times, they even build a special piece of machinery for a specific purpose, relying mainly on their instinct and on years of experience. Most of them were born of pioneer parents and settlers in the Southwest and the Far West. Their life on the ranch is sound and solid. They're close to the soil. They're one with the land. The fire boss outlines the operation, delayed so far by the changing wind. When the wind shifts, they shift with it. But now the burn gets underway at this end, too. Everywhere the fire is being watched. A flying spark, the burning punk from the button sage, and hot spots all have to be looked out for. The fire boss of Unit A has posted himself at a point where it was anticipated that the fire might jump. Fire department crews are also stationed nearby, and when it actually happens, they are ready to act. This burning log, if left unattended, could cause an expanding fire in an area where no burn was planned. As night falls, the task of burning continues into the late hours if necessary. This now is only a skeleton crew. It's time to eat. Most of the men have had coffee and sandwiches provided earlier by the ranch. For the evening meal, the host ranch has barbecued a beef for the firefighters, and they take turns attending it. Everybody's mightily revived by the hearty meal. The fire bosses review the day's work with satisfaction, and the president of the ranch is delighted with the progress, and nothing is missing, not even the tune. Dawn. Through the smoke, the results of the first day's work gradually unfold. Only yesterday, all this was choked with brush. But this was a good burn, and much land has been freed and opened up. However, there's still much to be done. They are not yet finished with the work, and the entire crew of firefighters is back on its feet for the second day's burning. This cowboy services the diesel torch compressor. It is important the flamethrower should not break down, or the timing of the operation will be disrupted. In the meantime, fresh moves of operation are outlined, horses and equipment readied, and without wasting any time, the burn gets underway again. As the fire progresses, wildlife takes heed. Deer, quail, and others sense the fire far ahead, and, like this little creature, they up and head for other quarters. Fire and sun make work hot for the men, but while they sweat it out, the dogs have a better idea. This ominous cloud, which may easily have been produced by a tragic fire, billows from a useful burn. The fire has burned large areas, and yet most of the trees are unharmed. But this is understandable because brush does not grow in the shade of the trees, and only a low fire swept through underneath. After a burn, all works in man's favor. Covering the slopes with the whiteness of snow is ash, useless brush burned to fertile ashes. This white ash forms a chemically perfect seed bed for the reseeding which follows in a few days. One of the blessings resulting from the burn is water. Life-giving water, for after a burn, many dry springs begin to flow again. Such ashen terrain, all barren to the eye, harbors tremendous advantages. Not only is it now freed from the brush and ready to be seeded, but for years it will act as a huge fire break in the event of unexpected fire, to which it will no longer add any fuel. However, the brush is going to grow back again, and through burning, repeated every 7 to 10 years, the problem can be solved effectively. Cover the extended areas the seed is broadcast from an airplane. The seeds used in this operation are a mixture of exotic grasses, smilo, velt, and harding. Annual rye has also been added to tie the soil in the first year until the exotic grasses take hold. A bin built into the cockpit holds several sacks of grain to be released from the air. Already in its first year, the harding grass, together with the other exotic grasses, begins to form a sod against erosion. A firm sod, excellent for stabilizing the soil with long roots. While the charred trunks of the brush still mark the horizon, the exotic grasses have already changed vast areas. This is the good seed, rich in protein, minerals, vitamins, and all the palatable nutrients. It will plant and replant itself with the help of the wind, the rain, and the elements. And for years to come, it will create a bountiful table set for the cattle. Now that the wild maze of the brush no longer clutters the land, the life of the deer will also be improved. The deer, too, can now look forward to good foraging on the delicate shoots of the new brush. This burn has had a wealth of advantages. The ranchers have reclaimed land that can now be put to good use. Much precious water has become available. Substantial fire hazard has been eliminated, and a thorny scrubland has been transformed into a more beautiful garden in nature.